Hey everyone, welcome to... Wait, where's Rob? Well, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna do this one alone. Okay, welcome to Edge of Wonder, where the strange meets the profound. I'm your host, Ben, and on this episode...
I'd like to interrupt this broadcast to give the world a very special announcement. I just found the best inexpensive taco place on Hijacks.
That's great, Rob, but we're not talking about food here. I mean, we have to do this episode on the 1977 broadcast from the ASHTAR command.
Dude, there were tacos in 77. But let's roll Radio Face's intro, and I'll finish up these tacos and come to meet you in the office in a second.
The Rhodesian nationalist leader, Bishop Abel Muzorewa, has accepted Mr. Smith's offer to negotiate an internal settlement based on one man, one vote. But, he says, there are conditions. These include stopping the execution of all captured prisoners of war.
This is the voice of Allah, representative of the ASHTAR Galactic Command, speaking to you.
What could this message for the human race actually mean? How does it relate to our constellation? Who or what is the ASHTAR Galactic Command? And what other names might they go by? And if they are who they're purported to be, what is their purpose here? And why did they try to make their presence known to us? Was it simply a warning to make better choices in the future? Or is there something much bigger at stake? All of this and more, only on the Edge of Wonder.
Wow, you guys, such an awesome intro. So not sure how many of you guys knew about this. I mean, I didn't really know about it until after we started EOW, but what about you, Rob?
I was only kind of vaguely aware of it. I'd heard about it, but never looked into it. So basically, in 1977 in the UK, during the primetime hour of an evening news program on Southern television, someone who called himself Vrillin from the ASHTAR Galactic Command essentially hacked the station's broadcast to relay a 6-minute message to the human race.
Now, there are many people debunking this, and many people in the ufology community believe it is legit. On this episode, we'll break down what happened and explore all possibilities to find out if this was a real broadcast from an extraterrestrial or just a group of people having some fun.
However, it is really worth noting here that no one has ever been caught or charged for the so-called crime of hacking this TV station's broadcast.
To take this even further, to this day, no one even knows who is behind this, nor has anyone stepped forward claiming responsibility.
Well, the CIA and MI6 might, which brings up even more questions such as, are they that incapable that they couldn't find the culprits, or are they hiding it?
And to add to that, I mean, the CIA, MI6, FBI, even Mossad, to this day can't figure out who the so-called LARP is playing QAnon. So either they aren't that capable or don't want to reveal the truth. But we digress.
Or don't know.
Or don't know.
I mean, if it is a military operation, they're covering their tracks, right? So anyway, getting back to the original story, what did this Vrillin dude actually say on the broadcast? Well, a lot actually.
Southern TV's news anchor Andrew Gardner was giving the evening news when he was interrupted by a voice giving a message to the human race. Now, what is interesting is that some people heard a completely different name other than Vrillin.
Right, some heard the names Gramaha, Brahmaha, Gillen, Asteron, Ashtar, or even the name Virilhan, which we'll get into soon. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an actual recording of the voice. The voice that we hear on all the YouTube videos is a reenactment, although the video is actually real.
Also, in Superman, the Man of Steel, they referenced this when Zod came onto the TV speaking to humans.
Except Zod's message was a threatening one, whereas Virillin's was apparently a peaceful one.
Right. In a nutshell, the message was a warning to the human race to disarm and stop our nuclear and atomic weapons of mass destruction before it was too late.
He actually says, quote, "The wastes from atomic power systems will poison your planet for many thousands of your years to come. And also, we need to avoid disasters that threaten our world if we keep going with nuclear weapons."
What is even more fascinating is that he actually talks about the Great Awakening, in which he says, quote, "This is in order that you may share in the Great Awakening as the planet passes into the new age of Aquarius." Now, the age of Aquarius is also a term we hear a lot about.
For those of you who are wondering what the heck is the jargon of the age of Aquarius anyway, well, in our interviews with Laura Eisenhower, who talks a lot about this, the age of Aquarius is a time period of about every 25,000 years when the Earth's vernal equinox point moves out of Pisces and goes into Aquarius. And between you and I have no idea what I just said.
All right. In layman's terms, what this means is that we know that the Earth's axis is slowly wobbling. And currently, the vernal equinox point is in Pisces. Now, about every 25,000 years, it changes. So about 50,000 years ago, it was in Aries. Many people believe we started shifting into Aquarius after 2012.
Thanks for clearing that up. And even though I still don't understand what any of that means, Brillin goes on to say that the age of Aquarius is a time of great peace and evolution of our human race, but only if your rulers are made aware of the evil forces that can overshadow their judgments. So in a nutshell, the age of Aquarius sounds okay to us.
Yep. We believe this is a good thing. He also states that only those who choose to live in peace will pass to the higher realms of spiritual evolution, and warns people of false prophets and guides operating in our world who, quote, "suck your energy from you, the energy you call money, and will put it into evil ends and give you worthless dross in return."
Sounds like Donkey madness and taxes to me.
Yep.
He also encourages people to listen to their inner divine self and learn to be sensitive to the voice within that can tell you what is truth, what is confusion, chaos, and untruth. He goes on to say that they have been watching us from above as they are the lights in our skies that we see. Whoa.
Vrillin also stresses that there are many beings around us and watching us, more than our scientists admit. He goes on to say, quote, "We are deeply concerned about you and your path towards the light, and will do all we can to help you," and encourages us to live without fear and in harmony with each other.
Okay, now there are a lot of things we would like to touch on, but first let's discuss how this was possible, given this is in the 70s and people didn't have computers laying around like we do.
Southern Television signal was unique in that it received its feed not over a hardwired connection, but from a secondary transmitter on the Isle of Wight. So it was bouncing one signal off of another, which made it vulnerable to manipulation.
However, this couldn't just be pulled off by an individual at that time. I mean, the only people who could really do this would be groups with a huge amount of money, government, organizations, or other broadcasting companies, or aliens. Whoa, we gotta be careful using that word. We might get censored now.
There was an investigation by the Independent Broadcasting Authority, but according to the UK's Independent, it is impossible to find the results. The IBA was replaced in 1991 by the Independent Television Commission and ceased to exist after 2003, when it and others became a company named Ofcom.
The article states that they reached out to Ofcom, but they kept no records going back to that far.
So either the results were hidden from the public or lost and never made public. Which begs the question, why was it never made public if this was such a big issue?
So just to note, there were two other broadcast hacks that happened following this in the 80s. One was someone dressed as Max Headroom, who was literally some dude in a mask just being a donkey, making obscene gestures and wanting attention. The other was the Captain Midnight HBO interruption a year earlier, where this dude hacked in and was basically just upset about HBO having exorbitant prices for their subscription.
Yeah, at that time,
You're
especially.
right.
It was like,
What was it, $12.95 at that time,
Yeah.
which translates into about like
$30
$30 or $40 now.
yeah, it's crazy.
HBO's smart.
So whoever this Vrillin is seemed to want no credit at all and honestly just did it to bring a message to the human race to warn us about blowing up our planet.
For being one of the first people to successfully hack a primetime station, it is kind of selfless.
But we do have to bring into question the kind of strange religious movement called Raelism, which was founded in 1974 by Claude Verlon, who currently lives in France. Some suggest this group was behind it because of how similar Verlon and Verlin sound.
I'm gonna start calling that dude Jean-Claude Verlon. I mean, they're both from France. Wait, Raelism such as Ra-El, meaning Sun-Saturn worship. If you guys haven't seen our Saturn episode or the Deep State series in general, you really need to watch that to understand what that means, because it's pretty serious.
Right. Well, only people in this movement would know, but here is their symbol for their religion.
I mean, dude, that is full-on a swastika mixed into the Star of David, which has a hexagon inside. This has warning signs all over it.
And this isn't all, you guys. Guess where they are located. I mean, this is just the icing on the cake. Okay, Rob, just take a guess. You can probably get this.
So if it's occult stuff, I'm gonna have to, I would guess Switzerland.
Geneva.
Oh man, pull it right out of the hat there. That's like, they're so like predictable, it's like ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So dude, that just makes this like way more suspicious.
Now, to be fair, the Srvatsa or swastika is an ancient symbol found in almost all religions, and it is a very upright symbol representing our universe or Milky Way. Hitler and the Deep State of course, are obsessed with twisting and warping everything for their own use, so they twisted it and reversed it, warping the meaning of all of this.
Okay, so yeah, I've seen that sign on Buddha statues in China too, right?
Yeah,
so these are everywhere.
Yeah, in India and everywhere else too. So.
But these guys are super weird. I mean, they don't believe in a god or a divine creator, and instead believe that these humanoid extraterrestrials are the ones that created mankind. And they also think GMOs and cloning are a wonderful thing for humans. In fact, they even supported Monsanto in their GMO push, if you can believe that. I mean,
and that's just the beginning. I mean, they even wrote books about this, but they are actually the founders of this strange company called Clonaid, which brags about creating the first human clone, Eve, in the mid-2000s. But oh my gosh, you guys, we're gonna have to publish a whole episode on this for our edgeofwonder.tv, since we would have to bring up a lot of names associated with it, and it's just too crazy to publish on YouTube.
yeah, anyway, even Michael Jackson went there, and it was reported by the Telegraph that he was obsessed with cloning himself and wanted to do it no matter the cost. So yeah, for our subscribers on edgeofwonder.tv, be on the lookout for that one, because that's gonna be nuts.
Also, the rapper Kid Buu, who claims he was cloned by Clonaid, has the symbol tattooed on his chest,
So now I can't drink Kool-Aid, and I don't want to drink Clonaid. That's for sure.
that's for sure.
So yeah, he even has a live Instagram post where he's with his other clone self. I mean, this just keeps getting weirder.
But getting back to this group, they think that transhumanism, genetic manipulation of humans, along with sexual liberation are all good for us. They even wrote books all about this stuff.
They also encourage their members to be sexually open with each other and also support sex education of youngsters, showing them how to obtain sexual gratification. I mean, really, this is just a prime case of preparing victims for something else. And we don't want to say anything too bad, but what is that? That's just very strange, especially given all of the other,
There is way more to this too. They also believe that Noah's Ark was a spaceship, the Garden of Eden was an artificially constructed continent by aliens, and the Tower of Babel was a rocket ship that was supposed to reach the Creator's home planet. And of course, aliens are our gods.
Right now, so that sounds like some on a donkey madness. They're also very anti-war, which is why some believe this group could be responsible for the interrupted broadcast. However, they would need to be pretty tech savvy to pull this off back then. I mean, for real.
Yeah. But looking at what they are doing now, who they are, and owning Clonaid, which was possible due to an extremely anonymous donation, maybe there is something bigger backing them.
But let's ask something else. Who is this ASHTAR Galactic Command?
Before we get into that, we need to bring up George Van Tessel and who he was.
Tassel was an airplane engineer starting in about 1927 for Douglas Aircraft, then with Hughes and Lockheed. Soon, Tassel befriended an eccentric German-American by the name of Frank Kritzer, which he made his home out of the giant rock in the Mojave Desert.
During the early days of World War I, Kritzer became under investigation by the government and was accused of being a German spy. When local police came to question him, he set off an explosion, actually killing himself in the process.
The heck?
Yeah.
So Tassel then purchased the land around this giant rock and started to live there with his family and soon started to hold group meditations. It was here when the group actually started to hear voices for the first time.
Soon Tassel started to interact with a being named ASHTAR, who claimed to have a fleet of spacecraft and even a space station overseeing Earth. Some say the Dark Knight UFO is the space station. Now, this was way before the 1977 broadcast. Tassel's testimony about what ASHTAR told him was very similar to that broadcast.
Then in June of 1952, he sent a series of letters to government agencies warning that UFOs would soon start to fly over Washington, D.C., which also happened to be the same year he said he met ASHTAR.
But this is where the crazy part comes in. Later that June, there really was one of the largest UFO events in American history. To this day, it has been heavily suppressed in the media, even though thousands witnessed it. A fleet of UFOs were seen hovering over the Capitol building in D.C.
I mean, this was a massive event and somehow never really got the mainstream attention it deserved. According to the late William Tompkins, who was interviewed in the Above Majestic movie, these crafts were actually not piloted by aliens, but by German soldiers.
This is where also the Operation Paperclip really starts to pan out. But that is an entire different episode, and we talked a lot about it in our Majestic 12 episode, along with some others.
Tassel was also building this thing called the Integratron, and he said that he was aided by the writings of Nikola Tesla and was also given these telepathic directions from extraterrestrials. It said it was an electrostatic generator for the purpose of rejuvenation and time travel.
Unfortunately, it was never finished, nor did he reveal the plans to anyone on how to finish it. He died of a sudden heart attack, although people close to him are skeptical of this since he always appeared in good health.
In a nutshell, ASHTAR of the Galactic Command claims to be a purely benevolent being representing a group of beings that are all here to assist humans on Earth in the end times and to stop humans from blowing themselves up.
They also follow the law of the divine creator and claim that they do not want to be known as any kind of godlike deities, but more as our galactic family. They say they are here to protect the solar system from hostile and dark extraterrestrial groups, that is ETs, that are only in service to self, like the Dracos.
There are many who claim to have either channeled or even met them in person. In the book On Earth Assignment, The Cosmic Awakening of Lightworkers, it states this from the being who calls himself ASHTAR. Quote, "Know that you are part of the vast universe, so magnificent that even we cannot do it justice with our descriptions."
It goes on to say, quote, "We can assure you that it is teeming with life and filled with love, wisdom, and creative opportunity. Know that you are precious in the sight of your Creator, that you are divine heirs to a kingly inheritance." Pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Now, whether or not you believe this is up to you. There are a lot of things out there that appear to be good, but are for sure not. So, like always, we suggest to do your own research and draw your own conclusions about this.
But we're going to do another episode on who this Lord ASHTAR is. We couldn't really fit it all in this episode because it was just so much. But in other areas, they do talk about how they can't believe humans trash their bodies so much by drinking, smoking, promiscuous sex that is rampant in our society.
Yeah, because they also look at our bodies as being very divine-like. So we wanted to bring up something that recently happened in the news. The New York Post published an article and video stating official confirmation from a spokesperson from the Pentagon admitting that they indeed investigate UFOs. Well, there's a surprise.
This came a year after the New York Times so-called bombshell about the secret Pentagon UFO program ATIP, in which it studied and documented unidentified flying objects. Now, we are saying bombshell in quotes because it didn't really have the impact they were expecting.
Right, instead of the world freaking out, most of the world just said, we already know about this secret space program, so talk about that. However, the Navy are really the ones that seem to be dropping huge bombshells, but not many people are reporting on it.
There are two huge documents that were released. One was a patent for an aircraft that literally defied gravity and propelled itself using powerful electromagnetic waves, and it is triangular in shape.
Most of us in the UFO community believe this is actually disclosure of the TR-38 triangular aircraft in which many locals in Hawaii told us they see all the time.
There are also leaked photos of the aircraft resting in Area 51 and some on aircraft carriers. Insider Corey Good mentioned a while back that more of the public would start to see these in the air as the Navy slowly declassifies it, similar to how the stealth bomber was declassified.
Except these travel thousands of miles per hour and are able to go into space and defy gravity, so we think this is kind of the work of reverse engineering of alien craft. I mean, what else could it be?
Also, the Navy released an article explaining to military personnel how to report a UFO if they do see one.
The point of explaining all of this is that the UFO incident in DC at the time isn't really at all crazy if what the government is now saying in public is really true.
So why has our government been hiding this from us, and why is the Pentagon now coming out with this statement?
I mean, it seems that they're trying to control the narrative, which is why other insiders who are leaking this info first are actually a threat to them.
After many insiders stepped forward, such as Bill Cooper onwards, it changed the public's questions from did Roswell happen to now questions like why is the government still covering up Roswell and demanding answers on what the secret space program is.
So the narrative has completely shifted, and it is up to us to put more pressure on our governments to demand answers into what this is and all these other things. We need full disclosure, full declassification. So please like and subscribe and share this to get the info out there, you know, since YouTube is now censoring everyone in our community like this.
And because of the censorship, they have actually lost over $70 billion this quarter from censoring all channels related to these topics, which they claim is less than 1%, but I mean, 1% doesn't seem to add up to $70 billion in loss of revenue.
I mean, just give me a break. And also, like, let's just point out that, you know, everyone goes to YouTube to watch all of this fringe content. You're not going there to see CNN, you're not going there to see the History Channel. You're literally going there to find all this content that you can't find other places.
Right.
So you're destroying your business model by censoring all of them. I mean, why would you do that unless you had an agenda?
Exactly. And on top of that, Alphabet lost 8% on the stock market this quarter because of this.
Well, not to mention that our buddies at Secure Team 10 just got censored. Well, guys, there's really a lot of things that we could have covered in this episode, but we're going to have to go and put some of that on our own platforms, such as really who is behind Clonaid, what they're doing, famous people involved, and how they're able to get away with everything that they're actually doing.
So to kind of sum up this episode, since the voice on the recording isn't the original, maybe a different name was actually used, and this like so-called religious group made the recording and changed the name to kind of confuse everybody.
I mean, that is another way to look at it. Man, I just hope those clowns in realism, or whatever it's called, didn't actually do this, and it was real, right?
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, it seems pretty real, but anyway, thanks again you guys for watching, and until next time, we'll see you out
On the edge.
of Max Headroom.
Nice.